running back to his right. He's got 4 receivers. Milroe looking, throwing deep. He's got Ryan Williams caught. He's running down the sideline. Breaks a couple tackles. Running. Touchdown, Alabama. What a play. Touchdown, Alabama.
And here's the snap. Hands it to Audric Estime. And that is and should be a touchdown. Here we go. Bryson Barnes has got his back behind him. It is Jaquindon Jackson. Here's the snap. Bryson Barnes looking deep. He's got a man. It's caught! He's got touchdown early. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. I'm Cooper Naylor, and welcome to College Football Wraparound. It is a new season, and tomorrow morning we'll begin the 2025 college football season. What a crazy time we live in, as we are finally back, as it is almost that time for college football. Folks, tonight, what we're going to be doing is I will preview some of these games that we're going to be picking. We got 10 games that we're going to be picking. Now, I'm probably not going to preview all of these just because of time constraints and all that. But we're going to talk about some of these games. There are 4 really good games tomorrow, and we are going to one of them. And I'll get into that a little bit here in just a little bit. And, it explains why we're not going live on Saturday morning. Rather, we're going to be live tonight here on a Friday night. Now, we're also going to be talking about the games on Thursday and Friday night of week 1, because our Saturday morning college football wraparound show will be live next Saturday morning. So you can expect that. So we're excited. We are very, very excited. So let's go. Let's talk about some football. All right. Let's begin tonight with talking about, why don't we start with the game of the week tomorrow? That is Iowa State and Kansas State. Now, this is going to be a really interesting football game, because if you're going to look at the grand scheme of things and how this could shape up, first off, you're looking at a Big 12 matchup that we could be seeing in December when it comes time for the conference championship games. Now, you may be saying, Cooper, why is there a conference game overseas and week 0? Well, folks, I'm not the one who put the schedule together, so I don't know. However, it is an interesting matchup. You got both teams have returning starting quarterbacks. You got Rocco Becht for Iowa State. You got Avery Johnson for Kansas State. However, here's the thing. Both teams, their defenses they weren't elite last year. I mean, they were okay, but they weren't great. Here's the question I have here for this game tomorrow afternoon. Which defense can really make more plays? Because you know what you're going to get from Rocco Becht and Avery Johnson. Both of them are going to be highly explosive. But they're explosive in 2 different ways. Rocco Becht, he can get the ball because he has 2 guys who transferred in at receiver. I can't remember their names, but he's got 2 really good receivers who have come in to Iowa State, which is going to be a really interesting season to see, because you got 2 receivers, Jalen Noel, and then can't remember the other guy's name. But you have 2 guys who went pro. So now you got 2 other guys you got out of the portal, brought them in. So hopefully you look at the offense, it should be just as explosive or maybe even better than what it was last year when it comes to the passing game. Kansas State's offense is the one, if you want to look at both offenses and start looking at it and saying, which one do we really not know about right now that could go either way? It's Kansas State, because if you look at Kansas State's offense last year, when a couple of those starters when they got hurt, that's when they started losing. And really, if you're Avery Johnson, you struggled because you were having to carry the offense on your back the back half of the season, and it wasn't working. So for Kansas State this year, which they don't have a lot of depth this year either, what does that look like in game 1 in Ireland against Iowa State? I'm really interested to see this matchup just because of all these factors that I bring up here tonight. So there's a reason why I think this is the best game tomorrow afternoon. And so this is going to be one that you're not going to want to turn off. This is going to be one that you're probably going to want to watch it all. And of course, we're going to do the game picks at the very end. So I'll give you my pick here in just a little bit. But overall, what do I think is the key factor in this game tomorrow afternoon? Like I started with, which defense is going to make more plays? Which defense, for that matter, I think it's going to come down to which defense can cause a turnover in this ball game. Because I feel like both of these teams, at least their quarterback, is very experienced. So it's going to have to come down to which quarterback makes a mistake and that defense capitalizes off of that mistake. That's going to be the key to this game tomorrow afternoon. So for Kansas State and Iowa State, it's going to be a fun football game. This one should come down to about the end. That's my thoughts on this one. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Stanford and Hawaii real quick. Now, I will say the game we're going to, I'm not going to preview it very much. I'm not really going to preview it just because I don't, Sam Houston State and Western Kentucky and then what Fresno State and Kansas are the other two games. But we're not going to really talk about those here tonight. As far as previewing them, we'll pick them. But we're not really going to preview. Either way, Stanford and Hawaii. This is a really interesting game because both teams last year were not good. Stanford also, they've lost their starting quarterback. They lost their star receiver, Alec Ayumanner. And so for Hawaii, again, also Hawaii's just like, you don't know what they're really doing. It's not really going well for them. So here's the question I have for this ball game. Because both teams haven't looked good these past few years, I think it comes down to what's the coaching going to look like on both sides. Now, at Stanford, you got interim head coach Frank Reich, which, you watched him. He was the coach of the Colts for a little bit. Then, of course, he coached the Panthers there in the NFL. He, I think, is a good coach. However, does it translate to college? Honestly, if you want to look at college right now, you got a lot of interesting coaches. I mean, you got Bill Belichick at North Carolina. You got Frank Reich, who is the interim at Stanford right now. You got Dion at Colorado. So, it's really interesting just to see what is being done in college football right now. Now, all of this to say that I think this game is really going to come down to, and here's the thing. I want to see what both of these offenses are going to look like. There's been a lot of turnover for both teams, and I'm really interested to see what does Stanford do on offense that's a little different from last year. What does Hawaii do? And so, and Hawaii, has been known for like a run and shoot type offense. I mean, I think they were one of the ones who created the run and shoot. So it's going to be really interesting to see what these offenses do in this ball game. I think this is going to be one of those where it's more about what do these teams look like rather than, anything else. So we'll be picking this at the end of the show. So it's going to be really interesting for Stanford and Hawaii. I'm really excited for that game. Although I probably won't get to watch it because tomorrow we are going to be going to the Sam Houston at Western Kentucky game, which is going to be really exciting. Never been to Western Kentucky to watch a football game, so we're going to get a chance to go see them play week 0. I'm excited. It's going to be a really fun ball game, I think. Like I said, though, not really going to preview that game or Fresno State and Kansas. Just don't really see the need to preview those games. Okay. Let's now go to Boise State and South Florida. All right. Here's the question I have for this game. This is a game that'll be played at I think it's 5 or 4:30 Central Time Thursday night. Here's the question. And I'm looking at Boise State. You're a team that just made the playoff, and you've lost your star running back in Ashton Jeanty, and I believe their quarterback Maddox Madsen, he left as well. So, I'm trying to let me look that up real quick. But, okay, no, he's still there. Okay, so you still have Maddox Madsen. Here's the question that I have for Boise State. Are you still going to be a run-heavy team, or do you lean into the experience of your quarterback, Maddox Madsen, in this game? Now, also, South Florida, you got Alex Golesh as your head coach, and we've seen what kind of offense they like to run. And although it hasn't translated into wins as far as in the big games, they've given some good teams a lot of trouble. So I think this is a really interesting football game. Now, I want another guy I want to make sure is still at South Florida. Yes. All right. So Byram Brown, the quarterback at South Florida, he's still there. This is, I think, the matchup I want to watch in this game is the quarterback battle between Byram Brown, the quarterback at South Florida, Maddox Madsen at Boise State. This is going to be a heck of a matchup. I believe this game could end up being one of those that comes down to the very end. And at that, you don't know what's going to happen in this football game. You just don't. Anything can happen. And so the key to the game is going to be I think it comes down to which quarterback plays better. That's the bottom line here. Now, I will say this, Byram Brown, he's a very mobile guy. He can get out of the pocket and make some plays for you. Maddox Madsen's not really athletic. He's more just sit in the pocket and throw the football. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he does. So I'm really excited for this matchup. All right. Turning our attention to another game on Thursday night, Nebraska and Cincinnati. Now, I think this game is going to be a really great one. Dylan Raiola coming into, I think it's now his 3rd year as a starting quarterback. He's been the starting quarterback, or 2nd year for Dylan Raiola. Yeah, I think it's 2nd year. That's crazy to think about. Matt Rule's 3rd year at Nebraska. Going to be really interesting. And it starts out a game in Kansas City. I think this makes for a really fun matchup. Cincinnati, since getting to the Big 12, has kind of dwindled in their success. Of course, they made the college football playoff a couple years ago. And since then, they really haven't done much because, their coach left. Luke Fickell left Cincinnati. So I'm excited for this matchup just because I think there's a lot that could happen in this game. First off, Cincinnati's offense is going to be really interesting. I really want to see what they decide to do here because I don't think their offense has been incredible these past few years playing in the Big 12. So if they can improve on that, I think it'll be a really interesting matchup. Okay. Matt Rule has a podcast now. I did not realize that. Nebraska, on the other hand, I think it comes down to situational awareness. One thing I saw from them last year is that they seem like a really young team, so they weren't situationally aware. A lot of like dumb offensive line penalties that they had. And I mean, I think that just comes from being young and still learning to play the game. I think Raiola, I think if he can hone in on his skills, this could be a sneaky good team right here. I mean, I've seen one guy say that Nebraska could be in the playoff. Now, I don't know if they'll be there, but this team is going to be really good. And so this matchup is a really good first test for Nebraska, I think. And for Cincinnati, too, I think it's a really good test, too. So that, I think, out of all these games, that's probably like the second best game and the second game that, like, as far as if I'm ranking games I really want to watch, that's probably one I really want to watch because it's going to be crazy. All right. Let's look at a game that we're going to be doing, Auburn and Baylor. That game is going to be interesting. Now, Baylor has not been good for a couple years now. However, I think they, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they got to the Texas Bowl last year against LSU or who? That was Baylor, right? I think it was. Either way, they haven't really been the same Baylor. Okay, defense holds Cincinnati back. Okay, either way, so I think this matchup's really interesting. Now you got Sawyer Robertson, I believe, is the quarterback at Baylor, and he, for what I saw last year, I think he did a really good job last year for Baylor. So I want to see how that translates this year. Auburn, and I've talked about Auburn before that, here in this preseason, they've got to figure out how to win ball games. Now, last year, I think a lot of it was just they just couldn't get it done when it mattered most. Their defense, I think, and Auburn always pretty much has a really good defense. It's that offense that hasn't had the quarterback. They haven't had the quarterback, and it's held them back. I mean, that's just the honest truth about Auburn. But truly, Auburn is a hit or miss team. You never know what they're going to do. So it's really interesting to see what this game could be. Now, I think this comes down to really, I think both offenses will be lighting it up for next Friday. I think it comes down to which defense makes the play. Which defense can cause a turnover that completely changes the course of the ball game. I think that's what changes this game. I think it makes it really interesting. So I'm really excited for this Auburn-Baylor game. And then finally, let's talk about Georgia Tech and Colorado. So Georgia Tech comes into this ball game. You got Haynes King as your starting quarterback, which, folks, I really want to know your thoughts on this because I really think that had Haynes King stayed at Texas A&M, if they would have given him a second chance to be their starter, Jimbo Fisher probably stays in College Station. And now, I don't know what you think about that, but I feel like that's the truth. But that's really off topic. This year, Georgia Tech is a team that can legitimately do a lot of damage when it comes to the ACC and possibly making the college football playoff. Now, you got a couple of really good receivers, even though you lost Eric Singleton Jr., who's going to Auburn. You got a couple more receivers that are really good. So offensively, Georgia Tech should be really scary this year. Defensive-wise, I think they will be really good on defense. The question marks for me come with Colorado. And the reason why I say that is because I just feel as if Colorado, I don't know what to expect from them. Last year, they made it to the Alamo Bowl with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. I will say, it's like what I said in another video, is that I feel like the distractions that you've had with Shedeur and Travis Hunter, like the off the field distractions that comes with having them, that's gone. I think now it's more about the football and the play on the field. You got Caden Salter. You also got a guy in Julian Lewis who is coming in at, that's your two quarterbacks. Personally, I don't know if they've picked a starter yet, but I would go my gut says Caden Salter just because of the experience of having played college football before. Get Caden Salter in the game to begin with. And if he's struggling, then get the other guy in. Just, that's how I would do it. Colorado's defense, though, is the one that I really wonder. Can they actually make the plays at the right time? Can they actually hold teams, where they won't score? I mean, that's the question. Because from what I saw last year, the two biggest issues with Colorado is that I don't think their defense was incredible, even though you had Travis Hunter playing defensive back. I feel like it made it look better, but not great. And then your offensive line has not been great. A lot of that has contributed to, I think, a lot of the distractions that come with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. That's just my opinion. Because you didn't have those big personalities, I feel like the team would be better. However, this is going to be a really interesting football game. And like I said, the key to this game is going to be Colorado's defense. What do they do? Are they actually going to be a better defense this year, or are they just a flop? We'll just have to see. So, folks, that's the preview part of it. We're going to go to a commercial break, and then on the other side, we will be picking the games. So, stick around after this commercial break.
You hear me?
All right, everybody, welcome back. Jack has joined us for the game picks. How are you?
Doing good, Cooper. How you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. So we've got we got 10 football games that we're going to be picking from, and so um Georgia Tech and Colorado is probably the best game on this list. So what we're going to do is we'll pick it last.
All
We're going
right.
to start off with Iowa State and Kansas State. So you can go ahead and give us your pick.
All right. Well, this should be a good game. And in fact, that's two teams I picked to be in the Big 12 championship game. And if I believe I pick Iowa State to win it. So I'm picking Iowa State this game too. I think they got the best team.
All right. I got to say this. This, I agree, it's going to be a really good football game. And like I said, it comes down to quarterback play and which defense can cause a turnover. I think that's going to be the big question here. But I do have to agree with you. I think Iowa State is going to win this football game.
Yeah, I trust their quarterback and a little more experienced quarterback, and I like their coaching too. So I'm gonna go with Iowa State.
All right. Next one is the game we are going to be at: Sam Houston State and Western Kentucky.
This is a good game. I mean, it's two of the smaller schools have been good through history. Sam Houston State's been really good when they were in the FCS, but Western Kentucky's at home. I'm gonna go with them, and I like Tyson Helton. I like their coach. So I'm gonna go with Western Kentucky, the home team.
I would have to agree with you about Western Kentucky. I think they win the game. And I will say this. If I had to pick, in my opinion, right now, if I had to pick two teams that I think are going to the Conference USA championship game, which I know, I'm going to say Western Kentucky, I think will be there. And the other team, which I know my producer is probably going to look at me and be like, I don't think you're right on this one. But I just think that Jacksonville State will be there. Because even though Charles Kelly's the new head coach, I still think they will find a way to get there because I think Jacksonville State has built a good program.
Well, they've always had a good program and a good team, but Charles Kelly. Now I don't think they've been a head coach for. So, and it's you're taking over Rich Rod. I got to wait to watch the first game or two and see how they do when they play Central Florida next week. We'll kind of get an idea of a little bit of an idea how good they're going to be, but I can't say that yet.
All righty. Fresno State and Kansas.
Well, I'm kind of interested to watch this game actually because if you may not realize Fresno State's quarterback is E.J. Warner, which is Kurt Warner's son. He transferred. He's played at Temple, I believe Rice. His name started a couple of weeks ago, and he's got a lot of experience playing. But I believe he played at Kansas, and I don't know. I'm just going to take Kansas. Kansas has been pretty good the last couple of years. They had some issues last year, quarterback problem and injuries. But I would go to home team. I'm going Kansas.
I think, okay, I'll start this by saying I think Kansas, they weren't great last year. And like you said, it was a lot about the injuries. I think they'll be a whole lot better this year. However, this first game, if I have to go with a game, I think there's going to be an upset. I think Fresno State walks into Kansas and gets the win.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I'm going Kansas. I just think that maybe they'll have a little turnaround after having such a rough year last year. I'm going Kansas.
Yeah. All right. And the late game tomorrow night, Stanford and Hawaii. It's the latest kickoff of the four that we're picking from tomorrow's games. And that's Stanford and Hawaii, 6:30. Who you got?
Well, I mean, I don't know much about the two teams. I know that Hawaii's coach Timmy Chang played quarterback there. The thing's just about a third year back, and it's they've had new stadiums. They're trying to they got a lot of stuff at Hawaii. And going to Hawaii is usually hard. It's really kind of hard for people to win. But Stanford's got Frank Wright, and I mean, really, I think a good coach. And I'm gonna go with Stanford. I think they go to Hawaii, and I think they'll win that one.
And this is not me copying you, but this is just me saying I believe Stanford will win this game. And I'm like you. I think Frank Reich is a really good head coach. And personally, I feel like Stanford could be good enough this year where Frank Reich could become he could get the label as head coach instead and get that interim tag off of him. I think this is his chance that he could really prove to people how good he is. And so I'm taking Stanford because I think they're going to be better than what a lot of people expect them to be.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. You know, Andrew Luck's out there running the whole, not the athletic program, but he's like the general manager. We'll kind of see what he really wants. You know, Frank Reich's just a 1-year deal. If it's just like maybe bring a young coach in with him and train him, or I don't know. Frank Reich, far as I know, has never been a college coach, so I don't know as far as recruiting and all stuff you got to do in college. I don't know how he does that if he wants to, but we know at least for the year he's going to be the coach. But I do think he's a good coach, and I'm going to take them to win Hawaii. I don't know how many they'll win this year. I figure if they get bowl eligible, they're probably doing good.
Yep. All right, let's move to Thursday night. And this is going to be the only – this and Auburn and Baylor are going to be the only two games I'm not going to pick. So Jacksonville State and UCF, because I'm doing the game, I'm not going to pick. So who do you got?
Well, the game's at Central Florida, so both teams have new coaches. Technically, Central Florida's got Scott Frost is back for a second time there, and he did a really good job last time he was there. He's been out of coaching for about 3 years, so maybe he's learned a little bit. He's back more comfortable, I believe, at Central Florida. Jack State with Charles Kelly, I don't know what you're going to get with him for the head coach. I don't know the quarterback situation. I don't really know, but I'm going to Central Florida. I just think they're going to be the better team, and they should be. They're a Big 12 team compared to the Conference USA. They should beat Jacksonville State.
All right. Let's move to Boise State and South Florida.
That's another pretty interesting game because, Boise State there again, lost their running back. But, the program's always good. They've always had good teams. They had a year or two they wasn't really good, but they've always been one of the better group of 5 teams. And I'm not sure about South Florida. I'm going to go Boise. I think this was another potential group of 5 playoff team. I think they're that good. And personally, if they win this one, you're going to look at about week 3 or 4, I believe it is, they go to Notre Dame. Then we'll really get a good idea how good both of them are. But I'm going Boise.
This is one of those that I feel like this is a trap game for Boise State. I know first game of the year. I don't know if you could really put a label as trap game. But I personally feel like it is because from my experience of watching South Florida, especially against big brand teams, like last year, even though the score doesn't indicate it, they gave Alabama a run for their money. They gave them as good of a game as you could ask for from South Florida. They gave Miami a tough game too, if you remember, because Miami they literally had to have Cam Ward go out there and put up I think they put up 50-something points, but I mean they had to put that much up against South Florida because of how bad Miami's defense played that night.
Right. No, I agree with you, but I just think at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Boise because South Florida hadn't really won none of these games, so I don't trust them to win any of them.
I think I'm going to go South Florida for the win just because I think it's a trap. I honestly believe that.
Yeah, I can't believe a trap in the first game, but we'll see.
Okay. Nebraska and Cincinnati.
This one I want to really see. There's a bunch of them I want to watch, but this one I really want to see because I think Nebraska's got that potential to be a potential playoff team. I think they're that good, that can be that good. You got a quarterback with this freshman year. Usually you make your biggest jump from your freshman year to your sophomore year. So I think the quarterback will be a lot better this year. And they're playing Kansas City, so they should have a big home crowd, basically. I got Nebraska. I'm honestly, I can see them winning 8-9 games this year.
I agree. I think Nebraska wins this game. Plus, I know this is funny to bring up, but I mean, the way Dylan Raiola acts and plays on the football field, it's kind of funny to see Dylan Raiola. He acts like Patrick Mahomes, and now he's going to get to play in the same stadium Mahomes plays in all the time, which is it's just funny how that worked out. But yeah, I think Nebraska wins this game.
Well, we also got to look at Matt Rule's history. Usually about the third season. His third season at Temple, they got really good. His third year at Baylor, they got really good. So this is third year. So I mean, and then he hired Dana Holgerson, I think that's how he says his last name. His new offense coordinator, ex West Virginia head coach and Houston coach. So the offense should be, I think, will be even better because you got a really good offensive coordinator. I'm interested in what they're going to do. I do think they'll make a big jump offensively. I think Nebraska could win 8, 9, possibly 10 games. I think that could be that good.
All right. We got 3 more to go. I can only pick 2 of these games. Jack will be picking all 3.
Mm-hmm.
Appalachian State and Charlotte.
Well, I haven't really studied much about them. Charlotte, I really don't know much about them, but I'm going to App State. App State history usually been pretty good. I think they were down last year, but if you actually look, usually about every 2-3 years, they got a really, really good team. I trust App State in this one.
I agree. I think Appalachian State will win. I just don't know. Charlotte hasn't really been that good for these past, I don't know if they've really ever been good since they came up to the FBS level. So, I trust App State more than what I do Charlotte.
Yep, I agree with you.
All right. Auburn and Baylor. Like I said a minute ago, I cannot pick this game. I'm going to be doing the game, but I'll let Jack pick it. Who do you got?
Honestly, it was a hard one to pick because I don't know what you give with either one of them. Auburn, you don't know. Jackson Arnold, talent-wise, is a very good quarterback, but I'm hearing they may rotate quarterbacks. I never like doing that, but I don't know. I've heard some different stuff about Auburn, and I won't get into that, but just with the way Hugh Freeze kind of letting somebody's dictating stuff with the coach. Anyway, Auburn should be a lot better. This team, if they quit turning the ball over, a couple games last year they should have won that they messed up with turnovers or just dumb plays. And Baylor kind of the same way. Baylor, I think they've kind of struggled last year too, but with Dave Aranda and they're playing at home, it was a Friday night game. I'm going home team. But you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn beats them. It's to me, you had to pick one. I'm going to home team. I think the home field advantage gives it to Baylor.
I do have a question about this game, though. In your opinion, do you think of all the Week 1 games, when it comes to the stability of your head coach, do you think this holds the most weight in Week 1 as far as, say if the way you lose, that it could be the final time that the guy who's coaching your team is there?
No, I don't think it's that big because with Auburn, you got to look at it and go, if you're going on the road to play a B12 team that should be improved, you can't go by that. But there's other coaches that around. I mean, we just look at LSU. If they go to Clemson and lay an egg with all the potential everybody's got with LSU, I look at them. There's several other schools, but yes, and Dave ran the same way. They were kind of pressure been on him. But no, as far as Hugh Freeze, he should be fine. It's when you get later in the season, if you get into, I don't know who they play. If they were to play like a weaker team, someone they should beat, like they did last year, and you lay an egg, or if your quarterback situation don't work out, because you're supposed to be a really good quarterback coach. If you actually look at quarterbacks he's coached through the years, he's always had good quarterback play. If he gets good quarterback play, if Jackson Arnold plays up to his potential, this Auburn team could be a very dangerous team. But will he play up that potential? And I've heard different reports that he told the defense take it easy on them. You don't know. It's all practice stuff. But with Auburn, it's going to rely on that quarterback because he got 2 good receivers, and they have a running game, but it's going to rely on that quarterback. If Jackson Arnold plays his potential, they could be a very dangerous team. We'll see.
All right, let's move into our final game to pick tonight. One of your playoff teams, Georgia Tech, going on the road to Colorado.
Well, I'm going to go with Georgia Tech, obviously, but it's going to be a tough game. You go on the road, you never know what you get on the road. But I'll say this: with Georgia Tech, with your quarterback back, you're an experienced team. You won a couple of big games last year, so you know how to win. With Colorado, we don't know. You don't know yet. The quarterback, again, quarterback play. You've got some very talented quarterbacks there, but how are they going to play? How's Colorado going to mesh? They're playing at home, and I had to go with Georgia Tech. So I did pick them for a surprise playoff team, but Georgia Tech's schedule. If they was to win this one, then about week 3, Clemson comes to Georgia Tech. So, that first month we'll find out for sure if I'm an idiot for picking Georgia Tech or are they for real. And honestly, if they end up in October 2-1, 3-1, 2-2, anybody be surprised? So, Yeah, I'm going Georgia Tech. I mean, I did pick them, so I'm going. It was a road game. I'm going to go with them.
I think more people would be shocked if Georgia Tech was either 0-4 or 1-3 after the first
Yeah.
month than like 4-0, 3-1, 2-2. Like it would be more shocking if they were on the losing end instead of the winning end, just
Well,
because of how good everybody thinks they're going to be.
I'm kind
So
of looking at it. If they was a split between Colorado and Clemson, if you split those and you go, okay, you're good though. Even if you lose to Clemson, it's a conference game, but you could potentially run into them again in the year with a conference championship game. And there's going to be some good competition in the ACC, but they can lay down the groundwork. So if they go out there to Colorado and look really good and beat them, then we don't know. But there's so many interesting matchups this first month that could tell a whole lot of how the season goes.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go Georgia Tech. And this is just because, like I said in my preview, I just don't know if I trust Colorado's defense. That's like that's the main question mark I have about them. Because that was the thing last year. Their defense and their offensive line didn't really do incredible. Like Shedeur, not the most athletic guy, but he did. I mean, I'll give him credit. He did find a way to make some plays to get around that crappy offensive line that they had. So I'll give Shedeur credit there. He was able to make some plays. However, I just think that when it comes to Colorado, the defense was made a lot better by Travis Hunter. And I think I think maybe Shiloh Sanders was decent on the defense. But other than that, defense for Colorado really gives me a lot of questions. How are they going to do? So I'm going to go Georgia Tech just because I'm not sure about Colorado's defense.
Yeah, I mean, the first week we don't know, but that should be that's another interesting matchup. But they go out there, so we'll see.
All right, folks. So we pretty much agreed on most of these games, other than Jacksonville State and UCF and Auburn Baylor. I didn't pick them, so because I'm going to be doing those games next week. So we are going to be going to Sam Houston State in Western Kentucky tomorrow, planning to possibly get some kind of content, whether it's just like filming some of the plays during the game just to get like an outro, or maybe getting some kind of video put together. We'll just have to wait and see how it all goes tomorrow, and we'll give you an update on what kind of content we come up with. But that's pretty much it for tonight. Thank you, Jack, for coming on to do the picks.
I appreciate Cooper to have fun, and then be back in next week to do it again.
Yep. Really excited for that. So with that being said, thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you again later. Good night, everybody.